when I first moved to London to go to uni, I remember my first year, and I was kind of lonely, to be honest. It was the only time in my life where I felt like I was a bit lonely. But you know, it's really brought me out of my shell as a person, and being thrown into London from Wales, you know, you have to adapt. But you know, thinking back, it was such a special time to make connections with people. It was so based around music. It was not about business at all, or you know, how big of a show we could put on. It was just about putting on parties that we wanted to go to, making songs that we wanted to play in those parties, and enjoying the party, you know. So this is the Funica that everybody knows now, that's been here for a very long time, but the original location that the guys opened was called Cupola, I think, and it was just around the corner in Berwick Street. And that's the place where I really started to first discover a new sound that was coming from Berlin. It was a real moment for me, and I remember a mix that I made. It was called Sleazy Soul, and that was actually the first mix CD that got me my first ever gigs in the Key Club. When I first moved to London, the Cross was definitely already been going, but what happened was they opened another club. It was owned by the same guys, I think. I think the Rileys, one of them still owns Fabric. They opened a club called the Key Club. So that was a really important club back then for us, because it was, you know, it was our thing. For us back then when it opened, it was the coolest one. All of our, you know, favourite DJs were playing there, and for me to be able to play the set there was, you know, it was pinnacle for me. So this is the Holiday Inn Express in Old Street, and I've got some mad memories here, because when myself and my friend Dion first used to go out to the Cross on Sunday nights to Vertigo, you know, neither of us lived in central London, and we couldn't afford taxis home, and we couldn't afford to stay here either. So what we used to do was come in about 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and just pretend, walk past reception like we had a room, and just sleep in the corridors, basically. So this is it, the Reliance. I can't believe it's still called this, actually. Not many places are after all this time. So probably in about 2001, I decided to throw my first party, and I decided to call the party Electrocute. No one came. I did one of them here. But yeah. Absolute Hi mate. Cheers mate. But shortly after that, my friend Ferdia introduced me to this guy, and he had a warehouse just off Brick Lane, and with these big skateboard ramps in it. And that's where I started my party called DJs Can Dance. The idea being that everyone used to say that DJs never dance, so we were saying DJs can dance, and they dance in this party because the music's so good. But I think just before then, or around then, probably just a bit before, Secret Sundays had started, I think in 93 Feet East, which is a venue, but you know, it hadn't been used for Sunday daytime parties. No one was doing daytime parties then. And those guys really cornered that market, and were the first guys to really do sort of successful, proper daytime raves. Back right in the beginning of the 2000s, I guess, you know, there was this, I think, a real desire to not be in clubs as much, and you know, I think that it was, people were really trying to find, you know, new interesting spots to do parties. The East London scene, you know, the house and techno scene was at its very beginning here. We once did a party actually in a Indian restaurant. They had a little basement room. We did another party actually in like a tailor's. They just sold fabrics and stuff, so you had to go through all of these fabrics, and then they had this little room there. It was like, you know, 150 people. I used to do a party in a bar called Exit Bar. It was actually some of the first parties I ever did.
I actually think I played the first ever cubicle party, which used to be a old public toilet. So the old public toilets, you'd go down underground. There was a few of them around London. The good thing about this place was that it had the clear tiles, so downstairs you had just the right amount of light, so you could party all day, but you were hidden from the outside world. And it just had that kind of house party feel, but in a basement underneath the city boys doing their daily business. But there's a lot of rave, 2000s East London rave history around here.
And I did a few other events. There was one we did in conjunction with a few promoters from around here. We ended up meeting this guy who put on squat parties. On the other side of Old Street Roundabout, there was an old quick fit tyre garage, and he broke in there, rewired the electrics for us to get the power on. We put a big sound system in the basement, and we had one strobe light. At the end, we turned the lights on, and because the place hadn't been used, so you couldn't see the hand in front of your face from so much dust. This is the T building, and where you see Pizza East there used to be the T bar.
That's right, and let me tell it.
It was like a small bar, always free entry club that was curated by a friend of mine who passed away, called Darren Smart, who was a huge innovator in East London. There's a few things that went on here. Damien Lazarus used to do a party called Stink here, which was a Monday night party. It was packed, all industry people getting loose. I remember we used to carry on partying until like Wednesday. It was like back in the day where I had way less responsibilities. in the T-bar was myself, Matthew Styles, Dave Congreve and Rob Mello. We started a party called Dig Your Own Rave, and we used to do it every Sunday. And it was really a place for me where I really honed in my DJ skills, because those guys were all such good DJs, proper diggers, had huge record collections.
The two words that would sum up that period for me were creative and loose.
That's where they sold Budgie Mushrooms.
You know, we partied hard, but we also made a lot of music, searched for a lot of records, played really long sets and barely slept.
From like 2008, I used to have a house in Clapton. It was 145 Clarence Road, and it was a legendary house because it was like, yeah, it was basically the halfway house for touring DJs. So, but it was cool. I had one room as a studio. People would pop in. We decided to collaborate. That's how we started Hot Natured. Really, it was all done in that house. I mean, it grew into like what was like the deep house scene of the early 2010s, which was like huge. We even had a closing party, but it went on for like 4 days, non-stop. I had to pay about £12,000 in damages when we left. It was like, but it was worth it.
One of the things that was beautiful about that time for me as well was that we just really lived our lives around partying and music, but somehow we got so much done. We'd make so much music, we'd go to all these gigs, you know, and we'd just spend so much time hanging out and sharing ideas, and with no real expectation, you know, no competition, no expectation, you know, no one thinking or trying to achieve more than the next person. Everyone just trying to do their thing, but creating a scene together, you know, musically and socially. So the first time I ever played Fabric was, I think it was probably 2005, and I was actually booked here to play before I started releasing music. Because of my warehouse party, DJs Can Dance, I've played here consistently for the last, since then I guess, so 15 years. I think that it's so important to have a club like that in a city. I think that whatever else goes on around it, you know, you need to have a hub that goes on every single week, putting on forward-thinking and quality music for people. And this place has been consistent for, you know, 20 years now. It was really a really magic time. When I think back about it, it's really a time that shaped who I am musically probably the most, because it really helped me, you know, put my stamp on what I'm doing for the rest of my career.
Now it feels like you.
That's the good thing about London, you know, it's like, it's a place where you can come and, you know, make something of yourself and meet so many people. People come here to do something with their lives, do you know what I mean? So everyone's here really hustling and working, whether it's in music, you know, film, business, whatever you're trying to do, you know, it's a real place where you can make connections with the type of person you are. No one has to go to a sweaty warehouse. They're there because they really want to be there for the right reasons. And I think when people are brought together like that, it's a mutual love of something pure, and I think that binds people for a long time, I think.